All right, everybody, we are back again with another episode. How exciting is this that we are here on this journey together, getting to share all of these amazing ideas. I couldn't be more excited to be here again, and I'm so grateful once again for all of the people who tune in and week out to listen to these intriguing and amazing conversations with these amazing guests. And today will be nothing shy of that. Today's conversation is one that I hold near and dear to my heart, and that's very important to me, especially in this season of my life. Today, we are discussing therapy and me. What is it about therapy that attracts so many people these days? And what are the things that we're really looking to get out of therapy? Why is therapy important? How do we shatter all of the negative chatter that goes along with seeking help for your mental clarity? I know that I've been experiencing a bunch of seasons where things have just not been clear to me, and I've been really trying to figure out ways to make myself better. And I came to the realization that I could not do that until I began to do the real work. And the real work started when I began to reach out to others for help. So today's episode, we are going to sit down with somebody super special and get to talk about what it is to be a therapist, what it is to receive therapy, and what it is to really start that journey if you're afraid and looking for something to do to take that next step on becoming a better person. So stay tuned because you don't want to miss what we're about to talk about today. I'll see y'all in a second. Opportunity, emotion, grit, relentlessness. Cling to the sound of my voice and understand that what you want wants you. What you need needs you. And you are relentlessly becoming relentlessly better. Welcome to the Relentlessly Becoming podcast. Let's go. All right, everybody. So it's time to get into today's episode. Some really good, amazing conversation around therapy. And I couldn't be more excited to have the guest that I have here today. She is the absolute sweetest. I have known JC Baby, as I call her, for quite some time now. The last about 5 years or so, we met through one of my really good mutual friends, Trey, and we just immediately took a liking to each other. We always have amazing conversations. She always sheds a lot of light and positive energy, and I am so grateful that she took the time to come onto my platform and have this conversation. JC is a licensed therapist, and she does a lot of work with helping people get to their next side of better. And I'm excited that she is here to share with us some information about therapy and about making us smarter to essentially make a decision on if this is something for us. And I'm over the moon to have you here with me, Jason, baby. How are you today?
Thank you so much, Ray. Well, first, I just want to say how proud I am of you.
Thank you.
And I love this introduction that you have going on because I just love you too. And I'm so excited to be here to talk to, you guys about this because you said who therapy is for. Well, it's for everybody.
Absolutely.
It's for everybody. And so for us to see the importance and the value in it, we have to have people that look like us.
Right.
Talk to us.
Right.
Because can't nobody else come to us and tell us like, hey, you really need to do this when we have that mistrust in them.
Right.
That's going to kind of like push you away.
Yeah.
And so what I really think is important about therapy and why so many people need to come is because, well, I'm going to start with the stigma, right? Because a lot of people do think that you have to have something wrong with you.
Oh, yeah.
They think it has to be something like, oh, like I'm crazy, and I hate that word because that's really not like what's going on. What therapy does, and a lot of people are so misinformed, so I'm going to go ahead and give just a general definition of what it is because a lot of people think that we give advice, and we do not. We don't do that. We teach skills so that you guys can learn how to better handle emotions, how to deal with stressors in life. But the number one thing that's the most important about therapy is self-awareness.
Oh, yeah.
You get a lot of self-awareness from coming to therapy because you know how sometimes people don't like to get feedback and constructive criticism and stuff from people. Therapy is not kind of like a constructive criticism kind of place, but it is if you doing something, I'm gonna call you out on it.
Hmm.
I'm gonna call you out on it. I'm gonna let you know, like, hey, now you probably don't need to be cursing at your kids, but you know what I'm saying. And so, doesn't have to be anything wrong with you. It just helps
Yeah.
you get that self awareness, and that itself makes you become a better person.
Absolutely. And I know when I started my therapy journey, I know a couple of years ago, I got into therapy the first time just because I was like, I want to get a little bit more information, about myself, figure out how to handle situations and conversations and things that were going on in life. But I stopped. And then this year, I hit a really tough spot where I was like, I need somebody that I could talk to. Somebody who's not my mom, somebody who's not my pastor, somebody who's not a friend, but somebody who has the skills and the education to really understand what I am going through because I feel like I am at my wits' end.
Mm-hmm.
And I need somebody who can give me tools to be able to build the life that I want to build, tools to be able to have the mindset that I know I'm capable of having, and tools to honestly be able to feel like I deserve to keep my place here in
Oh,
this world.
yeah.
So for me, it was important to seek therapy and to not worry about the negative stigmas that went along with that because I had no other choice but to. And so that's what I tell a lot of people when they ask about, therapy and what's going on and are you still in therapy? Yes, I absolutely am because just because I've gotten over that hurdle or that issue doesn't mean that others want to rise. Doesn't mean that I don't want to keep doing the work. And I essentially equate therapy to being synonymous to the gym. Just because I get my body right,
Oh, I'm
don't
gonna
mean
say
that I'm gonna
something to you
stop
about
going.
that now. I'm
You
gonna
know,
say, I'm yeah,
just because I get my body right, don't mean I need to stop going.
it's preventative.
I just need to keep going and keep in it, even though my body is where I want it to be. I want to keep it like that, and so I kind of equate therapy to that. Just because my emotions are together today, that don't mean okay, I don't need to go. I'm fixed. I'm cured. No, I still need to go just because I want to stay sharpened. And so, what I really want to know from you as we get started is, how did you even become a therapist? Like, what was your journey like? How did you start that?
Child, let me tell you, I went to school for forensic science. And and I tell people this story like so often. I got into school and I went for forensic science, and then I found out I got a D in biology. I actually flunked the first time, and I was like, "Child, science ain't for me."
Mm.
But then I took a general psychology class,
Mm.
and just being a teenager dealing with my own mental health issues, my own mental illness in that time, it was always something that was near and dear to my heart. But going to college, I wanted to kind of like be in a forensic area, and I quickly found out that that wasn't for me. And after I took the psychology course, I was like, hold on, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Mm.
I really like this. And it came effortlessly to me. Just the theories, the way that people learn, the way that we behave, how behaviors come about, all of that was so interesting to me. Now, I still did go into forensic and correctional psychology, though, for my graduate, but it was just something about psychology that this is what I like to say: your purpose chooses you.
It does.
Your purpose chooses you. So you just got to get on board.
Hmm.
And that's what I had to do. I had to get on board.
You can't
So,
run away from it.
yeah, you can't.
So
Because, yeah.
when you started taking those psychology classes, was it like a immediate aha that I love this and this is what I want to do? and
Yes.
and it kept you like on that path for doing it. So for those who are trying to figure out if this is something that they really want to be a part of, because there are some people who feel like, oh, I'm really good at talking to people, maybe I should be a therapist, or I'm really good at giving advice, maybe I should be a therapist. What do you want to share with those people? Because you need to know if this is something that you really like.
Man, I'm going to be so honest. I'm not a people person. I am an introvert. And
I
I do
never
not
tell.
like small talk. Right. You're not going to be able to tell because I have those skills to be able to use that and utilize it in situations where it's needed.
Hmm.
But even in my cohort and just a lot of my coworkers, we share that same thing. We're not extroverted people. We're very introverted. We don't like small talk. We like to actually have substance to our conversations. And like I said, therapy is not just giving advice. It's not giving advice at all. So I'm going to tell you one thing. If you do want to become a therapist, you have to be able to release control. You can't, it's not just telling somebody what to do. It's guiding them towards their answer. And
Hmm.
my clients will tell you, I don't answer not one question for them. Nope. Nope. I'm gonna guide you. I'm gonna guide you towards it, and I'm gonna ask you questions to get you there. But I'm not going to be the one to give you the information that you need because everything that you need is on the inside of you already. I'm
Absolutely.
just helping you bring that up out of you. So for someone who is trying to go into this field, it's amazing to be able to like want to help people. But there is one big part. You have to be a person where you have to leave your biases outside of the door. If you cannot do that, it's going to be extremely hard for you.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I love the way that you broke that down because it's often easy to get that misconstrued.
Mm-hmm.
Like I always tell people, just because I'm a good talker, that doesn't mean that I was supposed to be a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a lot more to law than just going into a courtroom and arguing. And I know I don't want to sit in books all day and study
Right.
cases, so that's not going to fulfill, what I'm trying to do. And so I think that's where a lot of people get the stigma misconstrued and maybe try it and don't stick with it. But then there are people like you who think there's another thing for them, and then they figure out like this is something that I actually love. And I love the way that you talked about you don't give your clients an answer, you guide them to their own answer. So you support them on their journey to figuring it out themselves. And so what I really want to know from you is, what do you, as a therapist, as a practitioner, as a person who's in this field, what do you think is the most, or are some of the most valuable pieces to seeking therapy?
Mm. The number one thing that I think is the most valuable about therapy is sometimes we don't have that support system. Having an objective person, and I won't say I won't love my clients. We're not supposed to, but I won't say I don't love them. But upon meeting them, I don't have any other knowledge of them than what they are telling me. So my perspective of them is not guided, it's not biased by what they've done in the past or the mistakes that they've made. It's simply moving forward towards the goals and the things that they want to work on. And we start right here where you are right now. And so a lot of people need that support system or that person that's going to remain objective. If you make a mistake, I'm not going to say, oh, you're the worst person in the world. Oh, you know you shouldn't have did that. Or say, I told you so. I'm definitely not going to be that person to do that. I'm going to give unconditional grace, unconditional positive regard. And for me, I feel like that's the one thing about therapy that's the most important because community is important.
Absolutely.
The second thing that I feel like is truly important about therapy is that self-awareness piece. I'm going to ask you a question. Do you know what self-actualization is?
I have no idea what that is.
So it's basically reaching your highest potential, what you talked about when we first started the session. So, the session,
The
the
conversation, the session,
episode.
all of it. It's all the same.
Well, I'm gonna ask you, how many people, what percentage of people do you think actually reach self-actualization?
Maybe 5%.
Oh my God, that was a really good guess.
Is that the right answer?
No,
She said no.
1%
1%.
out of the whole entire population. Because people are so afraid of accountability, they're so afraid of self-awareness, they're so afraid of change. They will never actually reach their highest potential of self-actualization.
Yeah.
Also, poverty, lack of safety, lack of resources, lack of intimacy and relationships, friendships, all of those things build the pyramid to reach self-actualization. And especially after the pandemic, a lot of people have pulled back. They're now isolating themselves. So we're not getting that social part. When it comes to the economy right now, we're not getting that security that we need for housing, food, etc. So these obstacles are making it even harder for people to reach self-actualization, but therapy can help with it.
Yeah. And I know that, wow, first of all, because one, I didn't know what self actualization is. And then to hear that only 1% of the entire population of the world reached it, I'm immediately thinking, like, what can I do to better myself to be in that 1%? Because my desire is to reach my full purpose and potential. I want to be all that I've been called to be. And sometimes it's difficult. And like you said, there's a lot of fear around, different things that happen when you come to who you really are, like sharing your story and sharing things that you've experienced. I know for me, even doing this, it's a means of therapeutic release because I get to talk about things that I have experienced and been through
Mm-hmm.
as a beacon of light for other people who may not have the strength to talk about those things. But it took a lot of building for me to get to the point to even talk about it. You know, it takes a lot of courage to come in here episode after episode and share things that are going on in my personal and private life and putting them essentially on the internet for people to see. But for me, I think that is a part of my purpose and how I will reach my potential, pushing past that fear and putting out there, this is what I am experiencing, this is what I'm going through, this is who I am, authentically and holistically, you know, and hoping that that will inspire other people to do that. And so whenever you're meeting a client and you're breaking down to them the value of the experience that they're getting, how do you shape that for them? How do you shape that conversation to tell them this is kind of what you're going to be receiving, and I need you to brace yourself and be ready to go into those places?
Yeah, so I give my little spiel on the first session. I let them know that I'm so proud of them for having the courage and the strength to be so brave to come here and talk to a stranger about everything that's been going on in your life. And it's to a lot of them, the things are so embarrassing, but there's no judgment here.
Hmm.
And it's such a blessing to have a space where you don't have any judgment. And so creating that space for them, I do that initially in the first session. And I also let them know, like, hey, I want this to feel like home for you.
Hmm.
You can eat, you can do your hair, you can do whatever it is that you want to do because I just want you to feel comfortable. And that's what it's all about, like giving them a space where their inner child can feel safe.
Hmm.
Because, you know, as adults, a lot of us are still operating from our childlike, like we regress when we're scared, when things are scary, unpredictable, or
Hmm.
feel unsafe. And so when you're coming into this new situation, it's gonna be kind of like childlike sometimes. You're gonna regress the things that you used to do to cope as a child, like go and hide, or you know, like put your head down and don't talk. And we can't do that in therapy. So I need you to be comfortable. I need you to be safe, and I give them a rundown. And I let them know it's gonna get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I don't know if you know, it's so many people going around here dissociating, walking around thinking they're at peace when they really just avoiding every emotion.
Hmm.
And we finna wake it up.
Hello. You know, it is so crazy to think that because you don't address a situation that you have peace. I literally, one of my friends yesterday sent me a video by Tabitha Brown, and she was saying in the situation, you think not addressing a situation is you not disturbing the peace, when actually not addressing it is disturbing the peace within yourself.
Thank
So maybe you are helping another person be
you.
peaceful, but you're not being
Yes.
peaceful yourself. And then on the other retrospect, I always say, you know, when you experience something and you keep just balling stuff up, throwing it in the closet, eventually it's gonna tumble all out. If you don't take that stuff out, you wash it, you dry it, you fold it, you put it up, you wear it, you repeat. It's a cycle. And a lot of people don't want to do the work to put those things in the cycle. So they put a lot of dirty laundry in a closet and it builds up. And then essentially and eventually you have a blow up, or something goes wrong and you're not able to handle that because you think that just because you don't address something that you have peace. I'm totally agreeing with what you said. And it's like, it's crazy because I've experienced people who are like that. Instead of addressing and doing the work, they would much rather just throw it in the closet or put it back there. And eventually that stuff gonna come to head. And then you're not gonna be able to handle it.
Well, it's already coming to the head, and I'm gonna show you how. Cause I'm gonna tell you how because people don't recognize that it's showing up. It's called vulnerabilities, the things that are making your days making your emotional tolerance just a little bit lower. So you're going from 0 to 1,000 real quick.
Mm.
You're getting annoyed about very little things that somebody else might not, go to that level about. The way that you communicate is aggressive. you think you're being honest, but you're really just being rude.
Mm-hmm.
Like it shows up in some, and for black people, I'm gonna just speak to black people, it shows up so different in us. It shows up as heightened irritability, it shows up as anxiety, it shows up as worry, overthinking. All of these things are occurring. Can't go to sleep at night. You got insomnia. You waking up in the middle of the night, 3, 4 a.m. in the morning. You think that these things are going away, they're showing up in nightmares. They're showing up and you don't have an appetite. We can't just like not deal with something. And my book, Coping Ain't Easy, I teach people how to cope. And I just say coping is very intentional. It has to be intentional. The way you live your life has to be intentional, and coping is no different. And if you do not choose to cope, your brain gonna choose something for you, and it just might not be the healthiest.
That's good.
Yeah.
Shout out to the book. Tell us where we can get the book.
Oh, the book is on my website, atnwithjc.com, JACY. All three of my books are there. And I have a depression workbook called Getting Back to Me that helps you with, it gives you the symptoms and stuff of depression and kind of helps you. The number one coping skill for depression is behavioral activation. So get up, get outside, get you some vitamin D. And it teaches you how to do that in a way where you won't feel overwhelmed. Then I got the Me I Needed. It's the trauma workbook for the inner child healing, and I got Coping Ain't Easy. So they all $25 and under.
Go get that. Go get that. So, and I love this. So for the people who are experiencing depression, because a lot of times that's what leads people to therapy. Being depressed, being hurt, going through a breakup, going through a traumatic time, losing a parent, stuff like that. Talk to those people really briefly in that camera, the people who are experiencing depression and just looking for a way to deal with that and cope with that. What is something that you want to tell them and share with them?
Depression is my jam. It is. I love it. And I love to work with, you people, you guys, you people who are struggling with depression. The one thing I will say, you cannot do it alone. You cannot do it alone. You can't get through it on your own. This is something that you cannot do by yourself. And yes, we can have God. Yes, we can have prayer. Yes, we can have religion. But you need a full, entire support system, not just a therapist. You're going to need friends. You're going to need family members. You're going to need an army to get through depression because it's so heavy. It is so heavy and it's so hard to get out of once you get there. And like I said, it does take a lot of courage and strength. And when you're having depression, like when you're experiencing depression, your whole body just feels so heavy. It's like, I don't want to do anything at all. But I would rather you go ahead and try to get some help right now than reaching rock bottom, because it's going to be even harder then. So that's what I would say to people who are dealing with it. You can't do it alone. You got to get some help.
You got to get some help. And to the people who are in that abyss, you're in that hole, experiencing depression. You can't sleep at night. You can't eat. Your mind is boggled. It's weighing you down and wearing you like your clothes. You wake up in the morning to it. You go to bed at night to it. I want you to know that you are strong enough to climb out of that thing, that it is not over for you, that it is not the end, that is not where you have to stay, that you don't have to move your stuff into that home and create a residence there. There is more for you on the backside of what you are feeling, and that each day you have the ability and the power, even if it's by 1% or 0.5%, to reclaim your day and refigure out who you are. There is nothing that is going to keep you in that place if you choose to not keep you in that place. Depression is not your story. Victory is. And if you choose to be victorious, no matter how hard it is, it will one day, someday, somehow come your way. You can handle that thing. It is not above you. It is not better than you. In fact, it is beneath you, and you are able to walk on that. Depression ain't your end.
And to add to that, you're in control. You got to let depression know that you're the one that's in control, because sometimes you can feel so out of control with it just because of the way that it affects you. But you're in control. And like you just said, right, like that little 10%, that little 5%, all it takes is one step towards in the right direction, like one little thing each day. I know it's so overwhelming, but it's going to be worth it in the end.
It is. And just thinking back on my own personal journey a couple of months ago, I was in a state like no one would believe what I was going through. I couldn't even put it in words to people, which is why I had to go and find a therapist. Nobody could believe, or I felt like nobody would believe that I had reached a point where I was questioning if I even wanted to be here. That's how difficult things had gotten in my mind. Not even in all of the outer layers of my circumstance, because I had it all. Well, not it all, but I had so many
The
accomplishments
money, the success.
that look good to so many people. You got a good job. You drive a beautiful foreign car. You own a home. You have nice clothes. You travel a lot. You got to be happy. No.
No.
I've hit a point where I've realized some things about myself that I just don't like, and I'm trying to decide if I even want to be here to fix them. But then I decided that yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. That I can handle this thing, and that I was put here to handle this thing, to help other people handle this thing that's like it. And so that's why I strongly encourage people, get some help. You think that it's just a conversation, but it makes such a difference in your life, and the lens that it has you to look at the world in is so different. And I'm so grateful. And I'm not who I was in at the end of July. Like, going into 29 was probably the most difficult birthday that I have ever experienced. So many things hit me at once, about my life, where I'm going. I thought by now I would be married. I thought I
Oh
would be
yeah.
a father. I thought that I would have this and that. And I'm hitting 29. I'm going through a rough patch in my love life and in, other aspects of life. And I just started thinking about all the things that I don't have. And I hit a point, which is why I'm on my sobriety journey right now. I have reached over 100 days alcohol free. Because I was
Congratulations.
just like, I alcohol only aided in the abyss of my emotions. And I gotta let this stuff go so that I could become a better me. And I chose to do that, and I was just like, I have to get back in therapy. And thank God that I did, because she helped me address, the 7-year-old boy who was still upset about things that happened to him and the protection that he didn't receive, the way that he showed up in who I am as a friend and as a lover and as a person who strives to have all of these things, and just other things in my adulthood that I picked up that I didn't even recognize that I picked up and I didn't want to have. And so that's definitely why I strongly encourage people to seek getting the help that they need. And so what I want to know from you is, when it comes to finding a therapist, what do you advise, people to do when looking for a therapist? Because of course, with you being in this profession, family and friends are going to always reach out and be like, what do you think about this? How do you feel about this? How do you advise people to go about finding the right therapist for them? And I know it's your thing, because I know we were having a conversation like at a barbecue a little while ago. You was like, I never give therapy to my friends, but I will recommend you somebody. So I know that's your
Yeah.
thing. Like, how do you advise people on that?
Man, the number one thing that I would say is have that consultation with them.
Hmm.
Get on the phone with them and interview them, because they are working for you.
Right.
That's what I will say. How many people have you helped that had the issue that I have? How many people, like, what are your success rates? What is the theoretical orientation that you use? Give me an example of how you would treat this. What would a treatment plan look like? Do you give homework? Ask them 1 million questions.
Hmm.
That's how I feel. And a good therapist will not be upset that you're doing it. They will actually be so excited and happy
Hmm.
that you're advocating for yourself and that you're looking for the right person.
Hmm.
Number two, I will say, look at their education. Um, Make sure that their education is in alignment with like their specialization. So like me, I specialize in depression and trauma. So even though I've worked with everything else, those two are my things. So make sure that these people have this experience in these areas, that they've worked in a community mental health outpatient, that they've worked in hospitals, that they've worked in private practice for how many years, that they've worked with kids, that they've worked with this population of people. And the third thing that I will say is find somebody that you're comfortable with. If you know that you have a bias against a man, don't make no man your therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Or, if you have a very good relationship with your mom and you're a male, we probably gonna have to go back and forth with seeing who's gonna be, what gender may be the best for you in that situation, because we do have something called countertransference, where you can start feeling like, oh, this is my mama.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that might help, but sometimes, it can hinder you.
Mm-hmm.
So get a feel, and don't feel like you have to stay with the same therapist forever.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're done with a certain issue, if you feel like they're kind of like pushing you off and they feel like they're trying to like wrap you up like real quick, go find somebody else. If you feel like these issues aren't working, if they're only wanting to remain focused on the present and they're not wanting to go back into your childhood, and that's something that's very important for both depression and trauma, that's not going to be the therapist for you, because a lot of the coping skills, the protective skills that you're utilizing came from childhood. A lot of people don't know that, and so we have to figure out what's the underlying reason for you doing these things. And if they want to stay present focused, then they just putting a band-aid on the issue.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say go to those therapists who gonna get you out in 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 sessions. Go to those therapists who want to really unlock the underlying issue of your depression or of your trauma or of your anxiety. They have to be focused on the whole you, everything about you, and not just right now.
Absolutely.
But school teaches us just right now.
Yeah.
So you really have to just get a culturally competent therapist that's going to know how to work with Black folks. That's what I'm going to say.
Absolutely. So I guess that kind of segues into, because it's hard to have those difficult conversations and be able to really dive into the weeds. What are some of the difficulties of therapy that we don't always get to hear about or talk about? What do those difficulties look like?
The difficulties for me or for the people who go
So
through therapy?
the difficulties in general about therapy, and then I want to dive into the difficulties for you as a practitioner.
The difficulties of therapy is that it's like a second job. It's like a whole nother job. It's like having a child. Like, that is a huge responsibility, because you have to heal your inner child, and by doing that, you have to become the parent of yourself. You have to become the friend of yourself. You have to work on a relationship with yourself. And a lot of folks like to think that they have high self-esteem and that they just rolling around in life and they just really good, and they find out very quickly that that's not going on. Like, you overproving yourself. You over-explaining yourself. Like, these things, these actions exist for a reason. And so the number one thing that I will say is hard for people who are in therapy is the accountability piece and the humility you have to accept that you're not perfect, and you can never be that.
Absolutely. And then the difficulties for you as a practitioner, what does that look like?
I will say that it's very hard to see somebody in a space like where they're very much struggling. And it's just going to take a while. It's just going to take a while to get them up out of that. It's a lot of stuff that they're going to have to learn. That is going to be a time where they really don't like themselves. If they haven't already came there in that kind of place, in that space, it's coming. Because like I said, it's the accountability. It's very hard for people to take accountability because it takes a whole lot of courage, strength, and honesty and humility. It does. And so that part, watching people go through that, is hard, but the best part of it is seeing them come out on the other side and I figured out that I don't just have to date. Like, I can just actually just be myself and live life. Like, I don't always have to have a man. Like, period. You can love yourself and life is just fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a blessing.
Speaking of accountability, what advice do you have for people who are looking to make their step to be more accountable and to to really figure out how do I become a more accountable person? Because a lot of people desire to do that, but we just don't know
Know
how.
how.
So what do you have to say to those individuals who are looking for where do I start?
Listen to people even when you don't agree.
Mhm.
Because if they're telling you something, a lot of times we have this kind of like, I don't want to say like rose colored glasses on. Like we see ourselves as who we want to be, not always as who we are. And sometimes people who are on the outside looking in, that can give us that information that we can't see in ourselves. And so don't be so quick to be like, that's not me, or I'm not listening to that. You know, whatever you feel like, let's think about it. Let's gather some evidence for this. Let's really think about it. And if you feel like it's still BS or whatever, roll it off your back. But if you know that even if you don't believe that it's true, it will make you a better person, why not work at it?
Mhm.
Why not be a better person?
Yeah.
You know, based off of, because nobody ever in this world is going to know you truly except you. But people are going to have perceptions of you.
Absolutely.
And what we want is for people to have these perceptions that we would like them to have. So a part of that is listening to what people say and how they view you,
Right.
so you can become that better person.
Absolutely. And it can be difficult to navigate and balance feedback versus efficacy of self.
Yeah.
So do you have any tips for balance? Because all of the time, and I always tell people, it's not always about what people say about you, but it's about what you say about yourself. But it's also true that if different people who might not even know each other are given the same analysis and perception about things that you are doing, whether you're a good person or not. And I often say we are not as great of people as we think all the time. I take accountability for that. I've learned that in my journey. I'm not as good as I always thought I was. How do I balance that? How do I balance perception from others and the efficacy that I have of myself?
Well, number one, I would say you're not your actions. So, regardless of whatever actions that you're doing, however anybody else perceives it, it's okay to make a mistake. Don't get so caught up on the action that you forget the end goal, which is you just becoming a better person through patterns, through habits, through different things that you can do, characteristics to become a better person. Okay, so don't get caught up in that. And then the next thing that I will say is, when we're trying to balance these two things, you have to remember that yes, it is you who is the expert on yourself, but it is okay to listen to other people, even though they might not know you, even though they might not be able to see you deeply into your soul and stuff like that. That can still provide us some answers for some stuff. Like, we want to have a conversation with somebody, and the way we come off is kind of rude, but we feel like we're being assertive. That's an issue that I had, and my therapist had to clock me. She had to clock me, and I was just like, well, I don't believe it. But either way, even though I didn't believe that, I still utilized that knowledge from her to become a better communicator. So, like I said, it's all about that humility and just being like, okay, I don't have to believe this about myself, but I'm going to still work on it either way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Because balancing can be hard. Like there are some times where you drown in the thoughts of what other people
So true.
say about you, what other people feel about you, what other people perceive. And sometimes you focus so hard on trying to perform so that you don't disappoint or people don't perceive this of you, that you miss out on being who you authentically
Thank
are.
you. That's so true.
And for me, because I've sat in that seat before. I've worked so hard to put on a performance to show people that I'm really a good person. But then I had to reach a point where it's like, these people in the audience that I'm trying to perform for ain't even worth being here
Don't even know nothing 2 cents
to
about
say.
you.
So I got to really get an understanding of, yes, I welcome your feedback. Yes, I welcome how you feel. but I also have to understand that there are certain things that are embedded in the layers of who I am as an individual that I have conditioned myself to believe that are factual. Because sometimes we can also condition ourselves to believe some things that ain't true about us.
So
And
true.
you got to do the work to figure out, like, hey, that ain't real, But the things that are actually factual about my character, about my morality, about the way that I show up, I've conditioned myself to believe them, and I have actionable, tangible outcomes and evidence that prove these things. So it's not just a conditioned belief, but it's evidentiary support that prove these things that I know sometimes your perception ain't really a perception. You just don't like me.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I had to really get to the nucleus of understanding the people who really are looking to give me feedback because maybe I've done something to hurt them. Maybe I've said something that wasn't right. Maybe I took an action that was a misstep. Maybe I made a mistake. And then people who are just looking for things to pick at a wound because you really don't like me and you want to tear me down.
Those are the people that are committed to misunderstanding you.
Mm-hmm.
That's
oh
what
my
that
goodness.
is. Those are the people who are committed to misunderstanding you. They're not committed to giving you any grace for any mistakes or anything. They want to have that one action be your entire existence because they just want to dislike you. And that's not the kind of people, those are not the kind of people that we want to take that kind of feedback from. These people who don't even know your middle name, don't even know your favorite color, you don't even know me to even have an opinion of me in this space. So, like I said, if it don't apply, let it fly, let it roll off your back. But if you feel, like you said, it's the evidence. That's what's most important for what you think about yourself and what others think about you. Yeah. And if there's some evidence there that says that, okay, maybe I do need to work on this. Like 10, 15 people that told me I'm a little rude. You know, like, even though it's subjective, I might want to work on it. So the evidence is important, but also remembering that you don't have to believe what people say about you. Because sometimes they just be hating, child.
They do. They do.
They do.
And how do you recommend, taking the steps to detach yourself from those people who are committed to misunderstanding you? Because a lot of times, those are family members, people we've grown up with, friends we've had for over 20 years, people that we've been in close connection and we've gotten into the routine of being around and built things with. How do we take steps? Because it ain't always easy to just cut them off. But how do we take steps to detaching ourselves?
So it's going to be individualized to every person because it's super hard to be in a space where you've recognized that everybody that's around you or majority of the people that are around you not really good for you. That's so sad. It really puts you in a space where you feel like you don't have anybody. So the number one thing that I will say is you have to make sure that you've communicated your boundaries. And this is something that I always tell my clients. Boundaries, expectations, and standards all need to be clearly communicated and defined at the beginning of a relationship. And if they are not, then it's going to be hard to communicate them in the middle of their relationship or when there is an issue. But when you do communicate that, the way that they respond is going to give you a lot of information. So if they respond in a way where they feel like, okay, you're changing, then you know that these people have benefited off of you not having any boundaries. They got to go.
Oh, that's good.
They have to go.
Oh, that was so good. Girl, you just planted something in my spirit. That was good. Because it's hard. It's hard. And even with me, I've gotten to the point where boundaries are not negotiable. Period. They're not negotiable. I've set boundaries with my mama, which has been difficult because that's my mama.
Yep.
And she want to do things the way she want to do them and say what she wants to. No, I am 29 years old, grown, fully self-sufficient. We going to have boundaries with stuff that's going on. With my daddy, who is very tough and like, I set boundaries with my parents. I set boundaries with my siblings. I've set boundaries with my friends. And some of that has caused me to have to shy away from some people. And with some people, my relationships have grown stronger. Yeah. But I've grown stronger. I'm not who I used to be. And like you said, I can't allow you to benefit on who I was in the past, because I'm trying to get to that 1% of reaching my full potential. I didn't know that before today, but that's what I'm working towards, so I have to set those boundaries and do those things that are important for me to be able to get there. Now, you touched on it a little bit earlier, and I want to circle back to it. You talked about you have a therapist. I really wanted to know, what do you do, because this work can be taxing. I know it can. I don't even do it. What do you do to stay mentally sane and keep your mental health intact and receive the help that you need as an individual outside of what you do for everybody else? What do you do?
I kind of want to touch on what you was just saying just now before, and then I'm gonna answer that question. I just have to say that either you allow people to grow with you and they welcome their journey, or you outgrow them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's gonna be the most important thing. People who are willing to grow with you will not mind
Hello.
when you set your boundaries. But what I do is, I do go to therapy. I go to therapy weekly. I go to relationship therapy. We in there, And my therapist is, she kind of like me. Like, she's straight to the point. She all up in your face, and she gonna let you know when you're not on your stuff. Like, she's gonna let you know. And because it's hard, you get the vicarious trauma. It's the secondary trauma from what your clients are going through. And so that's hard, but also I'm still healing from my own self. I just got out of depression in March of this year. I've been depressed since I was 13 years old. And so it's like, I have to do that, or I'm not going to be any more good for my clients. I'm not going to have a cup to pour from. Ain't going to be nothing in my cup if I don't do that. I also have to take time for myself. I have to set those boundaries for myself, for my self-care. I have to do things that I enjoy. I have to spend time with people who fill me back up. And so, in setting those boundaries is, I will say, the most important out of that, because people will take and take and take and take and take until you don't have nothing else to give. And so you can't allow yourself to be in a situation like that. So I will say that's the most important, but therapy is close. It's up there.
I love it.
Yeah.
You giving some real, like that is so good. So what I want to know from you next, as we venture, is the advice that you have to those who are at a point where inside of them they want this help. They desire this help. But they're afraid and ashamed. They're afraid of what family might say. They're afraid of what friends might say. They're ashamed to tell somebody their personal business or personal things that are going on with them. What do you have to say to those individuals who are wanting to make that leap, but they have that cloud of fear or being ashamed hanging over their head?
Number one, them people don't got to know. Your family don't got to know. Your friends don't got to know. Nobody has to know. But number two, I'm going to learn you something called the two-factor theory of avoidance. And what it is if we always shy away from things that we are afraid of, then we will forever be afraid of them.
Oh.
So you do have to, if you allow fear to control your whole entire life, then when are you ever going to be in control? You can't do that. So we have to step out on faith and do the things that we got to do it scared. You got to do it scared. That's the only advice that I have. And like I said, yeah, it's a few not so good therapists out there. But don't allow that to deter you. Because the ultimate goal is peace. The ultimate goal is sanity. The ultimate goal is that 1%, right? Self-actualization. You cannot allow anybody, not even yourself, to keep you from that goal. So do it scared. That's my advice.
I agree with that. I agree. And that's one of my mantras. Do it anyway.
Just do it. Like,
do it anyway. With your knees shaking, your body shaking, with your mind you got to do it anyway. Jump scared. Long as you jump. You will never know if you can fly if you don't leap.
Thank you.
You will never know if you can fly if you do not leap.
It'll be a whole life full of what ifs.
What ifs?
And who want to live like that?
I don't want to get to the end and wonder what would have happened if I would have, should have, could have. Like, I live with that aspect in all of my life. Like, in my career, in my love life, in my personal life. I don't want to get to the end of this thing that I call life and wonder what would have happened if I would have jumped out. So what if the risk doesn't work? I tried it.
Yeah. You stepped out on faith. And this is what I told my client the other day. I said, imagine being the one who held yourself back all your life. Imagine it.
It ain't worth it.
Imagine it.
It ain't worth it.
Who want to be there?
I know I don't. I want to be. You done put, because you really done learn, as you say, you done learn
Let
me
me
some.
learn you
You done
some.
put me in that mindset. Like, I want to be in that 1% of self actualization. I want to reach my highest potential. That is my one thing that I desire and petition God for. To not let me leave this earth without getting all of the things that I feel are within the inside of me out into this world, without planting them. I know there is so much that I want to do, so much that I'm capable of, and so much that my belief system and faith believe are promises of God that are over my life. But I understand that I have to do the work
That's right.
to get these things. And a part of that work is having a healthy mind. I cannot show up and do all of these amazing things if my mind is not there. Because if I do reach them and I do accomplish them, I won't be able to fully enjoy them. And that's why when I see celebrities who are experiencing trauma and they are going through bouts of depression and having to check into facilities, and my heart especially goes out to celebrities who chose, or people in general who chose that they didn't want to live anymore.
Yeah.
It makes me realize that it is important to do that work on your mind. Like work to build that career, work to get all of those things, but do that work on your mind, because you don't want to attain all of this stuff and still not be
Still feel
satisfied.
like you have nothing to live for.
And that is what I told myself months ago. Like, I don't measure my success in the things that I
And your
have.
accomplishments
hmm
and materialistic things.
I measure success in the peace that I had. Like, true, not peace because I hid it or put it away, but peace in knowing that I did my very best and I was
Yes.
authentic. I put it all on the table. I bet the house. And that's where I look at it as. So,
That's how it is. That's what I always tell my clients. The way that I live my life is to be as authentic as I can be so that somebody else can have the courage to do the same.
same.
That's the only thing that I want to do in this world. I could die tomorrow and I will feel like I have fulfilled my purpose because that's all that I've wanted to ever live for. Giving somebody that space to be themselves, that's it.
hmm
That in itself is very healing. And I don't think that a lot of people understand in this society where we have all these societal norms, we have all of these things that everybody is doing. We got the influencers, everybody want to be like the influencers. And people don't understand that the biggest accomplishment is just being yourself.
Absolutely. I love that, because I love being me.
Yeah.
There's nothing better that I can be than me.
Nothing else in this world.
And I gotten to a point where if my light shines too bright, you have the option of either putting on sunglasses or exiting the room.
Okay.
If my personality is too big, you have the option of expanding with me or exiting the room. I have no time or no energy to shrink or dim for the convenience of
Of you.
others.
Because quiet as it's kept, you need to be doing the same thing.
hmm
You need to be stretching yourself so that you can reach your fullest potential.
Hello.
And the only people that are upset about other people who are doing it is the people who feel like they don't have the ability to do it themselves.
Yep.
And that comes from an insecurity and a lack of accountability and a lack of acceptance of who you are. We have to accept the quote unquote bad things about ourselves to become a better person. And if you can't accept that you over here jealous and, because we can use jealousy to our advantage. We can use it as a motivating tool. But if you sit and you dwell in that, then you'll just forever be miserable.
Sure will.
And we see that so much on social media.
hmm
This is one thing I hate. When people are talking about their testimony, people say they bragging. It's not bragging, it's a testimony. You don't know what God brought people through to get here. And
Yep.
so they are giving their testimony to help other people understand that no matter what comes your way, you can still live your purpose. It's not bragging. So if you view this as bragging, then really what's going on is you yourself don't believe that you have the tools and the capabilities to become who you truly need to be.
Absolutely.
And you mad that somebody else had that opportunity.
Absolutely. And I firmly believe, hear me and hear me good. I firmly believe wholeheartedly that winners do not believe that it is bragging when other winners share their story.
Thank you.
They believe that it is evidence of the hard work that you have put in, an example of what can happen if I do the work as well. So if you are in a room with people who believe that you are arrogant and bragging and you are simply sharing your story, then you got to get out of that room and get in the room with people who are winning the same or above where you are,
I
so
just
that they can
made
look
a
at that as
TikTok about
evidence.
this.
Yes,
Choose a support system that's on your level. And I don't mean accomplishment wise, I mean confidence wise.
absolutely.
I mean in a space where they're going to want to grow the same. They're going to want to move the same. They're going to want to support you the same. You cannot allow insecure people to drive your goals because they will talk fear into your plans. You have to be around equally yoked people.
You do.
It just is what it is.
You do. You do.
So I agree with that.
Before we go, tell us a little bit about this practice that you are opening. I'm so excited about that.
Child, something I was forced into. I've been working with under the same person who's been my supervisor since I moved here to Texas. And from day one, she's been telling me to start my own practice. She's been telling me she believes in me. She knows that I can do this. And it just came to a certain decision where I didn't have any other choice at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave that lady my resignation, and she said, "This is a resignation I am happy to receive."
Mm-hmm.
Because I noticed you can do this. And so I have started my practice, All Things Mental with JC, counseling and coaching. And I do life coaching and I do counseling. And so with my life coaching, I can reach anybody in the world. But with counseling, I can only see people who are in the state of Texas. I take almost all insurances. So if you're looking for a therapist who is LGBTQ affirming and for BIPOC, but also anybody else who needs me, then I'm going to be the one for you, and you can just reach me at atmwithjc.com, JACY.com.
atmwithjc.com, JACY.com. And as you can see, she is the bomb.com.
Oh, thank you.
She is the bomb.com. I just want to thank you so much for coming and joining my platform, for enlightening us on the importance of therapy and all that we could extract, and really just pouring into me and the people and teaching me about self-actualization today and helping me to realize I want to continuously do the work to be a part of that 1%. I think that the work that you do is important, and I think that it is amazing, and I think that you are amazing.
Thank you.
And I am so grateful for all that you have shared with us on today.
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I love you too.
I want to end with one thing. Healing is not a one-stop shop. It's a lifetime journey.
It is.
It's a lifelong journey. So just stay on it. No matter what, don't ever give up on yourself. Because who else going to believe in you if you don't?
Absolutely.
So that's all I got to say. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming, JC, baby. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
So as you all could see, if you're looking to start your journey to get to your next level, and therapy is one of the things on the list for you to start that journey, don't be afraid. As we've heard tonight, healing is not a one-stop shop. It's a lifetime journey. And the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. So I want to encourage you, if you're afraid, if you're wondering, if you're even curious and inquisitive about it, get a consultation, take that step, reach out to somebody, because it's going to take more than your family and your friends and your cousin and your sister cousin and all of these people that you have in your life giving you advice. Sometimes we really do need professional help to pull us out of the abyss of life, because we know that life be lifing, but I want to remind you that God be God. And if you do the work, you going to get all that you need. This was another episode of the Relentlessly Becoming podcast. Until next time, everybody, I will chat with y'all soon. Peace.